So you just got a what?
A gun.
A gun.
Yeah.
So are you riding home with that gun, and what you gonna do with it when you get it?
I'm gonna buy me some ammo.
So is it ball ammo? Are you buying hollow points? What you buying?
That gun. Most of the time, from what I've seen, most people have full metal jackets in that gun. So what if you shoot that person and you've hit that person, but that bullet goes in and out and it travels into your neighbor's home? What do you do then? What's up, everybody? This is Deveritt Woodfork with All Out Tactical Firearms Training, and I'm your host for today.
And I am Wayne Brown with Fight Back Firearms Training, and this is We Stay Ready Podcast, and this is
episode number 4. And what we're going to talk about today is so you just got a gun. Don't just go buy a gun and assume because you got that gun, you're okay. You know how to make it go bang. You done found some ammo in the store that probably cost you $20 for 50 rounds, and that's it. Hook up with an instructor that's certified, do your due diligence, and make sure they know what they're talking about, and get trained and learn the right things when it comes to handling and owning and dealing with a gun. Which is why today we're bringing you this episode of the We Stay Ready Podcast, episode number 4.
Now, I got a question for you. My friend down the street, the one down the street down there, they had a guy break in. She ain't had no training. And she just put her ammo in a gun. When they broke in, she shot the gun at them. And she was alright. So why won't I be alright?
Man, look. So you telling me your friend had somebody break in the house. She shot the gun at them. She's alright. But why won't you be alright? I'm going to tell you something. Depending on what type of ammo she had in that gun, she could have had full metal jackets. She could have had hollow points in that gun. Most of the time, from what I've seen, most people have full metal jackets in that gun. So what if you shoot that person and you've hit that person, but that bullet goes in and out and it travels into your neighbor's home? What do you do then?
What he's trying to say, people, my co-host, Mr. Woodfork, is trying to get you to understand that the ammo that you use, it can cost you. It may not cost you on the front end. It can cost you on the back end. You buy this cheap ammo up front. But on the back end, this ammo, once it's penetrated your neighbor's home, it can cost you your life. And you go to prison because your neighbor home has been breached by ammo that you shot because all you did was see and spray. You decided, I saw a target, I started shooting. You did not become accountable for every round that came out of that firearm, and with you not being accountable for every round that comes out of that firearm. Because if you pull that trigger, instead of squeeze that trigger and know that I am proficient with this firearm with every shot that I'm putting out of this shot, if you're squeezing that trigger and you know that this is my limit with this gun, if you're squeezing that trigger and you know that I am not no good past 7 yards, then anything past that, you find yourself where you're dealing with a court case.
7 yards. Man, it's not to beat up on people, right? But I've seen times or instances where people have been in a gun range and had a target at 3 yards with a 22 and couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. You know what I'm saying? And we're talking about with a 22 at 3 yards. You shouldn't be shooting a 22 or a 9mm or whatever it is you're shooting and it look like you shooting buckshots. Because what's going to happen is, just like I just said moments ago, those rounds are going to be going all over the place, right? And then you're going to accidentally hit the wrong person. And ignorance is no excuse to the law. You can't go in front of a judge and be like, I was just defending myself. I'm sorry I hit that person, but hey, I hit that person too who was also trying to bring harm to me. It ain't gonna work that way.
No, that doesn't count. But anomalies happen. I shot that one person that was my target. Anomalies do happen. What if I just shoot that one target? Then what? What do I do then? I'm confident that I am safe, that I am proficient because I hit that one target.
Once again, I've seen people hit the X. So how many times have you went to the gun range and practiced hitting or shooting or aiming for the X? You know what I'm saying? And you hit the X and it's like, yay, I'm excited. I hit the X. And that's it. You done for the day. You wrap your gun up. You gone. You go home and take your target home and show everybody. Look what I did.
You posted on Facebook.
Did
it go on Instagram? Hey,
Instagram, social media, all that stuff. And we brag about being able to make the gun go bang because we now own a gun. We're new gun owners. We own a gun. We think we know what we're doing. But in reality, we just really know how to make it go bang. I mean, if you give a dog a gun, and I'm sounding probably a little crazy, but if you give a dog a gun and put a dog paw on a trigger, I'm pretty sure the dog can make it go bang. Anybody can make a gun go bang, but how proficient and skilled are you with using your firearm? This is why we're here today to talk about these things.
I understand what you're saying, sir. And I honestly get that. But in my mind, why must I spend money on a trainer? Why must I shell out? We got constitutional carry. I don't have to pay for a LTC no more. We got constitutional carry. So I can just go ahead and carry my firearm and I don't feel like I'm a threat. I don't feel like I'm not a problem. I can do what I need to do when I need to do it. I got a gun. The law said that I can carry my firearm. And guess what? I'm going to carry my firearm because the law said legally I can carry my firearm and I don't have to take no training course to do it.
Well, that's a good point because I understand the concept and the idea of we don't want the state, the government, or the law telling us what to do, right? I understand that. A lot of people are just against that. I get it. But at the same time, we should also take responsibility and be accountable for ourselves and learn how to properly use a firearm. You got to go through training for most things. You can't just go become a skydiver immediately and just go get on a plane and just say, hey, I know how to jump out of a plane. You got to learn how to do those things. You can't just accumulate or acquire a driver's license without going through proper training and getting a driver's license, which is basically a form of traveling, which is also our natural God inherited right. But we're talking about a gun. We're talking about something that can take someone else's life. A gun, something that can possibly take your life. A gun, something that could injure innocent people if you don't know what type of ammo to use. I'm going to just tell you a quick story real quick. So the other day, and hopefully this person watched this, I really don't care if they do or don't. But the thing is, I heard somebody say the other day that there was an instructor that told them that they as a woman or women, that instructor recommended that they use full metal jackets instead of hollow points for women. First off, I never even, that don't even make sense. I also heard that person say something about safety ammo. They got some type of safety ammo that when you shoot it, it goes bang, but I guess no projectile or bullet comes out the barrel and it doesn't hurt anybody. If there's something like that,
I've never heard
please
that.
let me know, because I've never seen anything like that. But this is a serious tool we're talking about. This is not a joke. You don't shoot warning shots. You don't carry the wrong ammo on your gun. You don't do those things, because I would hate if bullets just come flying through my wall because some uneducated or uninformed person had the wrong ammo on their gun.
Okay, so how many times do you think that I should go to the range so that I can become proficient with a firearm and I can feel like I am comfortable with carrying my firearm?
That's a good question, because so we talk about how many times you should go to the range. You can go to the range 20 times a month. But how many rounds are you putting down range during that 20 times a month? To me, it's based on more so how much or how many rounds have you put down range? Mm-hmm. How many rounds have you put down range? How many times have you practiced the right things? How many times have you, exercised the fundamentals and do these things to where the right things become muscle memory? Because a lot of people go to the range. A whole lot of people go to the range and they probably go 20, 30, 40 times a month. But a lot of people that go to the range also are practicing the wrong things, which brings me right back around to the point that you were talking about as to hooking up or getting yourself acquainted with somebody that knows what they're talking about. And before I stop, I'll just say this, and this is not to discredit law enforcement or military, but honestly, from what I know and understand, most law enforcement, they only train when it's or shoot when it's time for them to qualify. Most ex-military, army, whatever branch of the service that they have participated in, most of them, unless they have had a specific designated rank that allows them to carry a handgun, a side piece, they don't really practice with handguns. They practice with rifles. Saying that to say, I hear too many times, oh, my cousin or my brother was a police officer. My cousin or my brother was in law enforcement or military or some branch of the service, and they taught them or taught me how to shoot. But do they really know what they doing?
That is a big idea. I understand that. I get that. But should I take a training class? Should I, get with someone who give me some ideas of what I should do? I need to know what I need to do so I can, get ahead of the curve. I don't want to find myself behind the 8 ball. I want to be ahead of the curve. So what do I need to do moving forward? Because I was getting ready to go home and I was going to take my gun. I was going to put it at the top of the closet. The magazine was going to be empty. And guess what? I was going to be waiting for when they kick in my door. I was going to load up the magazine at that time, insert it in the gun. I hope I put the bullets in right, and do whatever I got to do to make it work, make it go backwards. And then I was going to be ready to fire.
So the very first thing that I suggest, because the first step is buying a gun. So before you buy a gun, the first thing that I suggest is that you hook up with an instructor or you go to a gun range and you find out which gun is more suitable to you. Because like you said in the beginning, some people, and I'm going to just go here for a second, some women, even men, go by their spouse, female spouse, or relative, the smallest, pinkest, purple gun that they can find. That's what they do.
You got that right.
They do that not realizing that gun, the smaller it is, the lighter
more recoil you're gonna have.
There you go. You know,
more recoil.
So that's the first step. Find out which gun is suitable and more comfortable for you. And there are many factors to consider when it comes to considering this. We're talking about how easily can you grip that gun? Not only how easily or how comfortable is it gripping it without shooting it, but how comfortable is it shooting that gun when you're actually shooting it? How easy can you rack the slide back? You know, how easy can you load the magazine? How easy or comfortable is it for you to carry that gun? You know, where do you carry that gun? Because depending on the size of the gun, depending on the size of your hands, depending on the size of your thumb or your pinky, because the pinky I found is one of the main things that's saying to slip off the handle of the gun whenever you go to grab for it out of concealment, right? These are things, and this is just a beginner's phase, things that people should consider before even purchasing a gun. And then when you're training with that gun, how well can you acquire the sights when you're coming from concealment to presentation? How well can you acquire your sights? If you can't catch the sights easy on that gun, maybe you need some bigger sights. Some people just change the sights out. Hey, fine, do what you got to do, but I don't recommend doing it yourself unless you know what you're doing.
Well, all that to say, you've really given me a good lesson in a lot of things I need to know of. But I want to say these things that people don't think about. When you purchase your first firearm, do you ever say to yourself, I got to get a great belt, not a good belt, a great belt. That belt has to be able to hold my holster so that when I drive down into my grip, when I go to draw, my holster doesn't come out in my hand with my firearm. You want to make sure that your holster is connected to your belt at that time, and that your holster stays connected to your belt. You want to also, once you've chosen the firearm that you have decided that this is a firearm that I want to go with, go to a range if possible. Rent that firearm, train with it for a few weeks. Make sure this is the one that I want to use, because if this is the one I want to use, just like a car, you don't go to a dealership and then purchase a car off of the first car that you get into. You purchase a car off of, I've test driven the Camry, I've test driven the Avalon, I've driven the Honda Accord, I've driven the Nissan Maxima. Now, I think I'm going to go with the Accord. You want to figure out what fits you greatly. And then once you figured out what fits you, that's the one that you chose. And you don't want to find yourself looking at something and saying to yourself, this doesn't suit me well, and it could cost me my life. Learn your range safety rules. Learn everything about the range religiously. Get with a trainer. Let him help you learn religiously the rules of the range, so that while you're there, you're saying to yourself, I'm not going to hurt anyone here, and I'm not going to hurt myself.
So what about cheap guns? I mean, you got guns, and I'm gonna just speak on it. High Point. What if I only got $150? I need something right now. I need something right now that I can protect myself with, and I go into the nearest gun store and I see this high point 45 caliber, because a lot of people like 45s, right?
They got knockdown
so
power.
$150.
Knockdown power. Well, I'm gonna tell you like this. I advise you, put another check with that check. Wait 2 more weeks. Give yourself a little more time and go on ahead and get you a Ruger Security 9. Go on ahead and put your little money up and get you something that's a little bit better. That way, you can say to yourself, I know I have something that I know is going to cycle, that it's not going to jam, and then I find myself where I'm sitting here with a brick in my hand that I thought was a firearm. So, take your time. There's no rush. You've already waited this long to get a firearm. Wait a couple more weeks. Get you something that you know is reliable.
Speaking of reliable, who are you going to rely on to protect you?
You rely on yourself.
There you go. Which is why you invest into a good, decent gun. You don't want to be out there and a fool run up on you and decide they're going to try to take you out, rob you, murder you, whatever it may be, and then you go to get your gun, and then you think you're going to press the trigger and make it go bang, and it go click.
I want to say this, and when it comes down to that, a firearm is an investment. If you decide that $169, is your life just worth $169? That's all your life is worth to you? When you got somebody who's on the other end of another firearm that's sitting there with a firearm that's a $800, $900 firearm, and you are walking around with this $159 firearm that you got from the pawn shop, and then I buy plenty of guns from pawn shops, first of all. But you got the llama. When it come down to it, you got to ask yourself, do I decide to buy this, or do I decide to buy the Glock that they have at the pawn shop? There's nothing wrong with guns from a pawn shop. There's nothing wrong with guns that are used guns. TexasGunBroker.com. I bought plenty of guns off of it. But when you're purchasing a firearm, you have to make sure that firearm works. You cannot assume that it works. You have to get off your ass and go to the gun range, and you have to learn everything that you can about that firearm and become best friends with that firearm so that you can know that when you need and have to depend on that firearm, it's going to do its job.
One of the main things that I have seen, and I'm going to just throw it out there because I talk about the women a lot, but men, we real egotistic. We real prideful. We think we know it all when it comes to guns, right? We got this thing where I don't need nobody telling me nothing, hook up with an instructor. I've seen plenty of instances to where I was in the gun range just doing my thing, and maybe it was a husband there with the wife or a boyfriend with the girlfriend, or maybe they were just dating or whatever it may be. And then there he showing her how to shoot or just giving her a gun. He really not even showing her, but he's just giving her a gun. Here, shoot this. Shoot my gun, because I guess he want to make himself, boost his ego up to her and boost himself up to her. Like, here, I got my gun. I got this. I got that. And then they're gripping the gun like this. The teacupping. I've just seen this right here. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes as men, we can think we know stuff and we really don't know a damn thing, especially when it comes to dealing with firearms. Before I became an instructor, before I started learning from other people, other instructors that were qualified and knew what they were talking about, me, myself, I thought I knew it all. I remember when I got ready to become an instructor, actually before I met you, right? The day that I met you, the class that I met you in the NRA class, I was told my wife, oh baby, I'm gonna pass this class with a breeze. She can tell you, I was like, oh, I got this. And I remember coming home after shooting at those little 2 or 3 in circles. Man, I just was discouraged. I was like, man, I didn't know what I think I knew. So it's best that we learn what we're doing. And I'm going to hit on this real quick. Don't just carry the gun. I got a phrase. It says get 8. Get 8. Get armed, trained, and educated. Don't get 8 by the criminal, but get armed, trained, and educated. So don't just arm yourself with a gun. Arm yourself with the knowledge on how to use that gun, and also arm yourself on the education and the information about the laws that relate to carrying a gun and the use of force and deadly force that goes along with your state or wherever it may be, wherever you at. Because a lot of times we just strap the gun on and we think we good. Once again, constitutional carry just passed recently in Texas. Just talking to somebody about this last night. They're like, well, man, I really don't need a license. I say, well, that's you. You really don't need a license. But if we're going to, we can't sit back and say, I don't want the government or the state telling me what to do. But then we pick and choose on what we're going to listen to when the government or the state tells us what to do. Because now the state has said, you don't need a license to carry a gun. Now we're like, well, I ain't got to listen to you. I'm listening to the state. I'm going to carry my gun. But the same people are catching UCW cases, unlawful carrying of a weapon. Some people are catching felonies because they're getting caught within 1,000 feet of a school zone with a gun on them. So you have to get armed, trained, and educated. Because if you don't, you're going to find yourself in a bad situation.
Well, D, I hate to say this. This all goes back to training. It all goes back to getting with you a competent trainer, sitting down and learning the laws. I'm not trying to force anyone to get an LTC. I believe in constitutional carry, but I also believe in getting with a licensed instructor that can help you, guide you through the pitfalls that you will make because you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know what you don't know, guess what? It could cost you a whole lot more than this little weekend course that you take where you will learn a lot of information. People come in these classes and they think like we did at the NRA class. We thought we were going to walk in there, breeze through it, and walk on out the door. We got in that NRA class and we were like, man, I didn't know all of this. Whoa. We got in there and we had to look at things different. And now people, they come to the class, and when they do take the class, they sit down and they realize there's a lot of laws. There's things about storage that you have no idea about. You have no idea about how to store your firearm and how to keep your firearm away from a child or an elderly person or someone who breaks into your home. They have things that you have to sit down and really look at and see that I've been doing these things wrong. So you have to sit down and figure out to yourself, is the little money that you pay an instructor for a weekend course worth it or not? I feel like it's well worth it. And even though I'm an instructor, you don't have to come to me. You can go see another instructor. You can go see D. You don't even have to go see him. Because guess what? You can go check out other instructors. But what we want you to do is get the knowledge. The knowledge. Because when you don't have the knowledge, guess who it comes back to affect? and then you make a mistake, and it comes back to affect us who've been fighting for these 2A rights for years. You are a new gun owner. You have no clue of how to carry a gun. But when you make a mistake and have a negligent discharge and you accidentally shoot someone because you were drinking or you were on drugs or whatever, and you decided to carry a gun, and then you shot yourself or you shot your sister or your brother or your friend, and guess what? It comes back to bite us 2A individuals in the ass because of you.
You know, speaking, I'm going to say this real quick. So I'm pretty sure everybody that saw the video, well, a lot of them, but the video, the 12-year-old girl shooting the 14-year-old young man and shooting herself too. You know, and they were, I think, doing an Instagram video about to take a picture or whatever it was on Instagram in the restroom. Now, take it for granted, they at that age shouldn't have had a gun in their hand without the supervision of a parent. But if they would have known better, if they would have been educated on how to properly handle a gun, because there are plenty of guns, from what I can see, in that household, you know, and if they would have known better on the do's and don'ts and how to properly handle a gun, you know, they probably would have still been alive today.
I saw that video, D. The little girl's finger was on the trigger. What is the first rule that you are taught about your finger and that trigger?
Keep your finger off the trigger until you have a conscious decision made up in your mind that you're ready to shoot and use that gun.
Exactly.
And keep it pointed in a safe direction. A safe direction ain't at somebody's head.
Bingo. So, with that finger supposed to be off of that trigger, you're supposed to be indexing. Her finger was riding on that trigger, and she shot the young man in the head.
And there's plenty of these cases. It's
All
plenty.
right.
It goes on probably as we speak. Somebody probably just, you know, negligently hurt somebody else with the firearm. I don't call it accidents because you just neglected to follow the firearm rules, or you neglected to learn the firearm rules. So I never call it an accident.
And the bad part about it is, in the last 2 years, we've had the highest spike in firearm sales. And most of those sales are our community. And I'm glad that our community decided to step out and start buying firearms, even though it's at a point where ammo is at its hardest to find. But I'm glad that we have decided to get into, we want to have firearms. But we have to focus now on training. We have to now focus on getting to know our firearm and becoming best friends with our firearm. Putting our firearm at a point where we want to know as much as we can about this firearm so that we don't hurt ourselves. Because what you don't know could hurt you.
And it will hurt you. On that note, we're going to end this out with, don't just buy the gun. Do not just buy the gun. Learn how to use the gun. Learn what ammo you should use in the gun. Practice carrying that gun. Practice as much as you can, because when it hit the fan, you're only going to be 1/3 about half as good as your training. So if you don't train, if you don't practice, if you don't get yourself educated and trained up on what you should do, it'll be a bad day for you and the family if shit hit the fan. So once again, I'm Deverick Woodfark. with All Out Tactical, and this is the We Stay Ready podcast, episode number 4.
And I am Wayne Brown with Fight Back Firearms Training. And we'll see you next week with another topic. And stay tuned.